Welcome. Close the door softly behind you. This place is quiet on purpose, like a room no one visits anymore. Kept only for the things we don't say out loud. Tonight's theme is love turned lethal. Toxic relationships where devotion curdles into control, where apologies are keys that lock from the inside, and where the person you trust most learns your pulse like a password. You'll hear the small, private horrors people live with, the smile that never reaches the eyes, the phone that rings from a pocket you're not allowed to touch, the kind voice that gets colder the closer you get to the truth. These are not monsters in the dark. These are promises kept a little too tightly. If you think you've heard stories like these before, be careful. These don't end when the door slams. They follow through texts at 3 a.m., through mirrors that remember, through rooms built to keep you safe. You may not sleep easily after this one. Most of you listen all the way through and never subscribe. If you want more nights like this, don't forget to click it. Keeps the lights barely on. What time is it where you are right now? And where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. I want to know who's awake with me. You might want to leave a light on. Here are tonight's encounters. The second I realized he hadn't blinked in over a minute, my stomach turned to ice. We were lying on the couch, the TV murmuring in the dark. I'd been half asleep, my cheek pressed against his shoulder. When I glanced up, his eyes were open wide, still, locked on the black screen. He wasn't breathing heavy or fidgeting, just staring, like someone waiting for a signal only he could see. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he'd zoned out, maybe he'd just fallen into that weird half-sleep people do. But when I shifted to face him, he turned his head too slowly, smoothly, his eyes catching mine like they'd been waiting. "Can't sleep again?" I whispered. He smiled, too quickly, too polite. "Didn't need to," he said. That wasn't new. Evan had always joked about how little he slept. The first few months we were together, I thought it was just his Schedule 8 work calls, gaming, maybe insomnia. But after we moved in together, I noticed he never went to bed, not once. He'd lay next to me sometimes, motionless, until he thought I was asleep. Then, a few minutes later, I'd hear him stand, the floorboards creaking as he moved quietly down the hall. I'd hear the fridge door open, water run in the bathroom, drawers close in the bedroom. Always small sounds, deliberate, careful. I used to think it was sweet. The way he tried not to wake me now, I think he was making sure I was asleep. It started with little things. My phone moved from where I left it, my charger unplugged, my hairbrush damp in the morning. One night, I woke up to the faintest clicking sound, metal against metal, rhythmic, steady. I sat up, heart pounding. The sound was coming from the hallway. When I stepped out, the house was dark except for a low blue glow coming from the living room. Evan was sitting at the kitchen table with his back to me. In front of him were several silver keys scattered across the table, gleaming in the TV light. He was running one key through another, again and again, like he was trying to make them fit. I didn't move, didn't breathe. "Evan," I whispered. He froze. Then, without looking up, said quietly, "Go back to bed." His voice was calm, but not tired, not like someone up too late. It was focused. The next morning, all the keys were gone. The table was empty. I tried to ignore it. Told myself maybe he was stressed, or just quirky. Everyone has their weird habits, right? But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me at night. Not someone, something. The shadows didn't look right in our room anymore. They clung too long, too sharp in places they shouldn't be. Evan's reflection in the mirror seemed slower than him just by a fraction, and sometimes, when I turned to speak to him, he'd already be looking right at me, like he knew exactly when I was going to move. One morning, I decided to test him. He was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. The curtains were still drawn. The room was gray and still. I asked casually, "What time did you go to sleep?" He looked up, smiling faintly. "Didn't you know me?" I laughed like it was nothing. "So what do you do all night then?" He blinked once. "Watch you." The air between us seemed to stop. He laughed, like he was joking. "Kidding, I just read videos." Stuff like that. But the way his smile lingered, after I looked away, it felt too long. That night, I locked our bedroom door. It didn't help. Around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of breathing. Not my own. Heavy, close. I sat up, my chest tight. The room was pitch black except for the red blink of the alarm clock. "Evan," I whispered, no answer. The breathing stopped. I grabbed my phone for light. The screen lit up 3:12. The bedroom door was still locked. I scanned the room, trembling. The closet door was slightly open. I swear I'd shut it. I got out of bed, my hand shaking as I pushed it closed. I didn't see anything inside, just my clothes, some boxers. But as I turned back toward the bed, something cold brushed my ankle. I yelped and dropped my phone. When I picked it up, the closet door was open again. The next morning, I told Evan I hadn't slept. He smiled gently and made me coffee. He was calm, soft, almost tender. "You've been stressed lately," he said. "Maybe it's just in your head." "Maybe," I said. But when I lifted my cup, there was something written on the coaster beneath it, in pen, small and shaky letters. "Stay still tonight." That night I pretended to sleep. I slowed my breathing, curled slightly to the side, and waited. Around 2 a.m., I heard him move. The creak of the mattress, then the soft scrape of bare feet on wood. He walked to my side of the bed and stopped. I could feel him watching me, his breath brushing my hair. I fought the urge to flinch, then he crouched. I could hear the joints of his knees, the shift of his weight. Something metallic clicked near my ear, soft, familiar. Keys. I opened my eyes. Just a slit. His face was right there, inches away. He was holding a small silver key up to my nightstand drawer, turning it slowly, quietly. When the drawer opened, he smiled. He took out my old phone, the one I hadn't used in months. Then he stood up, silent as dust, and walked out of the room. The next morning, the phone was back in the drawer. I checked it when he left for work. It powered on fine. No new messages, no calls. But in the photo gallery, I found something that froze me. Videos, short clips, dozens of them. Each one was me, sleeping, from the same angle, every night, for weeks. I wanted to scream, but the air in my lungs felt frozen solid. The timestamps showed 2:30 to 3 a.m., the same time he always worked late, the same time he never slept. I didn't confront him right away. I packed a small bag, hid it under the bed, and decided I'd leave the next day while he was out. But that night, he came home early. He was calm, smiling, eyes a little too bright. "You're quiet," he said. "Just tired." He nodded. "Then rest. You'll need it." I went to bed pretending everything was fine. I waited for him to fall asleep, but of course, he didn't. I felt his hand slide over my back in slow circles, almost hypnotic. When I finally drifted off, it wasn't peace. It was exhaustion. I woke up choking. My throat was tight, dry. I sat up, gasping, and saw him standing by the window. "Evan." My voice cracked. He turned, and I swear to God, he looked different. Pale, eyes hollow, dark circles etched into his face. "I told you," he said softly. "I don't sleep." He stepped closer, his hand brushing the curtain aside. Behind him, the window reflected the room, only there were two of him in the reflection, one standing, one lying beside me in bed. I blinked, and the reflection shifted. The second figure turned its head toward me. I screamed. He grabbed me before I reached the door. His hands were cold, not like skin, more like metal warmed by touch. He whispered. "It's okay. It's better this way. I can watch everything now." I kicked him, tore free, and ran. The front door was locked. The keys gone. I ran into the kitchen, grabbed the first thing I saw. Knife and turned. He wasn't there. The living room was empty. The lights flickered, hummed. The TV turned on by itself. Static. In the blur of noise, I heard his voice. .com, layered under the static. Don't run, baby. I'll never close my eyes again. I bolted out through the back door, barefoot, half blind in the dark. I didn't stop until I hit the neighbor's porch. They called the police. When they searched the house, Evan was gone. No signs of struggle. No blood. Nothing out of place except one thing: the bedroom mirror was shattered from the inside. They said maybe he'd run. Maybe it was a domestic dispute. But his car was still in the driveway. His wallet and phone too. The cops said I must have imagined it. Stress, insomnia, except when they asked if he'd ever had sleep issues. I laughed then cried, because I realized I'd never seen him close his eyes. Not once. I moved out 2 days later, got a new number, stayed with my sister for a while, but it's been months now, and I keep hearing things at night. The floorboards creak, my charger moves. Sometimes I wake up to static, humming faintly from the TV, and last night, I found something under my pillow. A single silver key, cold to the touch. Attached to it, a note in his handwriting. You don't need to sleep either. Not anymore. The police don't return my calls anymore. My sister thinks I'm having nightmares. Maybe I am, but there's one thing I can't explain. One thing that keeps me awake every night. The mirror in my new apartment. When I walk by it, it lags for half a second, and sometimes I see him behind me, eyes wide open, still watching. The first time she texted me after the funeral, I was half asleep. The sound of her message toned the one she'd said on my phone. Months before, cut through the dark like a blade. It was 2:47 a.m. The apartment was silent. The kind of silence that has weight. My phone buzzed again, and I froze. The name on the screen was Kara. I stared at it so long the glow hurt my eyes. I told myself it had to be a delayed message, maybe something she'd scheduled, or one of those weird carrier glitches. But then I opened it. Kara, you up? I dropped the phone. My heart went hollow. My mind started clawing for logic, but there was none that fit. Kara was gone. She'd been gone for 5 days. The police said it was a car accident. Late night, rain, a sharp turn she'd missed. They said she died instantly, but I'd been replaying that night over and over. I'd been calling her phone every day since, listening to the deadline ring until it clicked into silence. But now she was texting me, and worse, she was typing again. 3 dots. Then they disappeared. Then they came back. I picked the phone up with shaking hands. Another message appeared. Kara, it's cold. My throat closed. I wanted to reply something, anything, but every word that formed felt wrong. I couldn't breathe. I pressed the power button, turned the phone off, and shoved it face down under the pillow. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a cruel prank. Someone must have gotten her phone. Maybe her parents hadn't canceled the line yet. Maybe some sick stranger was having fun. But when I turned my phone back on, there were 3 more messages waiting. Kara, are you mad? Kara, please answer. Kara, I don't like it here. I sat on the floor, staring at them until my eyes burned. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I texted back, me. Who is this? The typing dots appeared instantly. They stayed for a long time. Then, Kara, you know who? For days, the messages kept coming. Always at night. Always the same tone. Soft and familiar. Sometimes they were random. Do you remember that diner? Or don't leave the lights off. Other times, they were wrong off, in ways that made my skin crawl. She'd mention things she couldn't possibly know, like how I'd been sleeping on the couch, or that I'd left her sweater hanging in the bathroom, or that I hadn't taken off the ring she gave me. One night, She sent me a photo. It was blurry and dark, but I could tell it was my apartment, my couch. The faint glow of the TV that I'd left on mute. There was a shadow in the corner of the photo, too tall to be mine. I didn't sleep after that. I didn't turn off the lights, either. By the fourth night, I called the phone company. They said the number was disconnected. Disconnected when? I asked. 2 days after the accident, the rep said. It shouldn't be able to send messages. I hung up without replying. That night, another text came in. Kara, I saw you on the couch. You looked tired. I stared at the message until my hands went numb. Then another one came, seconds later. Kara, why did you move my photo? My eyes darted to the bookshelf. The picture frame we'd taken at the beach was lying flat, face down. I hadn't touched it. That was when the smell hit me, wet earth, and something faintly metallic, like rust. The air was cold. Still, I turned slowly toward the hallway. The light at the end was flickering. The soft buzz of electricity cutting through the silence. My phone buzzed again. Kara, don't look there. I don't remember running, but I ended up in my car, engine running, hands trembling on the steering wheel. I drove aimlessly until sunrise, my phone vibrating non-stop in my pocket. When I finally stopped at a gas station, I turned it back on. 27 unread messages. Kara, you can't leave yet. Kara, come home. Kara, you're scaring me. Kara, please come back. The last one made my stomach drop. Kara, I'm waiting inside. I threw the phone on the passenger seat and drove to my sister's house. I didn't tell her everything, just that I needed to stay a while. She said I looked awful. I didn't argue. That night, I left my phone in another room, but around 2 a.m., I heard it buzz once. Then again. Then again. I told myself not to look. I buried my face under the blanket, but I could still hear the vibration echoing through the walls. Then it stopped, and a few seconds later, my sister's phone, on her nightstand, buzzed. Her tone was the same as Kara's old one. The next morning, my sister told me I'd been talking in my sleep. She said I'd whispered something like, "Don't lock the door, she's coming." She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes gave her away. She was scared for me. I wanted to believe I was just losing it. Grief does that, right? Makes you see patterns in shadows, voices and static. But then she showed me something that killed that thought instantly. She'd gotten a message during the night from an unknown number. No text, just a photo. It was me, asleep on her couch. In the background of the photo, just behind me, was a shape, a woman's outline, her head tilted slightly. I knew that posture. I'd seen it 1,000 times. Kara leaning against the doorway, smiling at me half asleep. Except in the photo, the face was completely blurred, like something had smeared it on purpose. I left that morning. I didn't go back to the apartment for a week, but something in me kept tugging, some guilt, some stupid hope that if I faced it, it would stop, so I went back. The air inside was thick, humid, like it hadn't been opened in years. The smell of earth hit me again. I checked every corner: living room, bedroom, bathroom. Everything looked untouched, except for one thing: her phone. It was sitting on the nightstand beside the bed. It was cracked, the screen black, but it was hers. The same lilac case, the same chipped corner. The police had told me it was destroyed in the crash. When I picked it up, it buzzed once in my hand. The screen lit up for half a second. Message received. Then it went dark again. A second later, my phone, my personal one, buzzed in my pocket. Kara, you found it. The messages changed after that. They became less human. Kara, I'm almost home. Kara, it's warmer when you're here. Kara, why did you put me in the ground? I stopped sleeping entirely. I could feel something in the apartment, with meal-like static before lightning. The shadows didn't stay where they should. The air felt charged, buzzing under my skin. One night, I turned the TV on for noise. The screen flickered, cycling through static. Then for a second, it showed something else, grainy, dark, a shape moving toward the camera. My phone buzzed. Kara, turn around. I didn't, not right away. But eventually, I had to. There was a reflection in the TV, a figure standing behind me, just outside the frame. Long hair, bare feet. Still, the lights flickered. When they came back, she was gone. I don't know how long I sat there, breathing through my hands. Eventually, I picked up my phone and typed with shaking fingers. Me, what do you want? For a minute, nothing. Then, Kara, you forgot me. I called her mother the next morning. I didn't tell her about the messages, I just asked about the phone. She said the police had returned it with Kara's things, but she hadn't looked through it. Said it was too painful. When I asked if she'd maybe texted me from it, she started crying. Sweetheart, she said, that phone was shattered. The SIM card was destroyed. No one could use it. That was the last time I called. The next night, my phone rang, instead of buzzing. Her name on the screen again. Kara. The sound made my blood go cold. I almost didn't answer. But part of me thought, what if it's a glitch? What if this finally stops, if I just pick up? So I did. There was no sound at first. Just faint static, then a wet, scraping breath, like someone exhaling through water. I whispered Kara. A pause. Then her voice low, distorted, but still her. Don't move. Then the line went dead. The air behind me shifted cold and heavy. I could smell it again. Earth, rain, metal. When I turned, the bedroom door was open, and in the doorway stood someone. I could only see her outline. Her head tilted, hair hanging wet down her shoulders. She was holding something in her hand. A phone. My phone buzzed. Kara, do you believe me now? I don't remember much after that. I must have blacked out. When I woke up, it was morning, sunlight slicing through the blinds. The door was closed again. Everything looked normal, except her phone was gone. I checked my messages. Nothing new. For the first time in weeks, silence. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe whatever it was had burned out. But later that day, while I was at work, my coworker handed me my phone. You left this buzzing on the desk, he said. It's been blowing up. There were 53 new messages. Each one was a photo. Every one of them taken from inside my apartment. Me sleeping, me eating, me in the shower, and in every photo. Behind me, in some corner or reflection, she was there. Sometimes just a blur, sometimes clearer, sometimes standing right next to me. The last message came a few seconds ago. Kara, don't look up. I can hear breathing behind me. Slow, wet, familiar. My phone just lit up again. Recording 102, 103, 104. If she's really gone, why is she still filming? The scabbing had started to itch that morning. That raw, burning kind of itch you can't scratch without bleeding. I was standing in front of the mirror, twisting my arm under the yellow bathroom light, trying to make sense of it. The tattoo had changed again. It used to say, forever. Just one word. Simple. Small. Right above my wrist. Something she and I had done together 6 months ago in a cheap downtown studio that smelled like rubbing alcohol and incense. Now, faintly under the old lines, new letters had started to show. Like ink bleeding up through my skin. Forever you. The words weren't part of the original design. The lines were too thin, too sharp. The artist had never done that script. And the weirdest part, they looked fresh. I told myself it was just healing weird. Tattoos change color. Skin stretches. Maybe it was scarring or something. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't it. Because the night before, I'd had that dream again. The one where she whispers through the dark, saying my name like she's standing right by my ear. I always wake up reaching for the other side of the bed. It's always cold. Kara and I had broken up 3 months ago, after she'd become different. possessive, almost paranoid. She'd check my phone, follow me on nights I said I was out with friends, cry if I didn't answer her texts fast enough. When I finally ended it, she didn't scream or beg. She just smiled. "Fine," she said, tracing her fingers along the tattoo on my wrist. "You'll still have me forever." I didn't think she meant it literally. That day, the itch became pain. It was like my skin was burning from the inside out. By afternoon, I couldn't focus on work. I just sat at my desk, rubbing my wrist, trying not to tear the scab open. When I finally went to the bathroom and rolled up my sleeve, I froze. The word had changed again. Forever yours. The lines were darker now, like the ink had been pressed into the skin again, and there was a faint redness spreading around it, shaped almost like fingerprints. I took a photo, shaking, and texted my old tattoo artist. Me. "Hey, did you ever touch up my wrist tattoo after the first session?" Him. "No man. Why?" Me. "It's changing him." "Changing how?" I sent the photo. He called me 30 seconds later. "Bro, what the hell did you do to that?" "Nothing," I said. "It just started looking like that. Those lines are too clean to be a reaction. Someone's added ink." "You been sleeping through anything weird?" The question hit me harder than it should have, because, lately, I had been waking up with things slightly off. My shoes moved near the door. My phone left charging in a different outlet, and once, my back door unlocked. I thought I was just being forgetful, but the way he said it made my stomach twist. Someone's added ink. That night, I slept with the lights on. I left my phone camera propped up on a shelf aimed at my bed, just to prove to myself nothing weird was happening. But I woke up to pain white-hot, stabbing pain in my wrist. I bolted upright, heart pounding, clutching my arm. My skin was wet, sticky. The tattoo was bleeding, tiny black lines seeping through the red. The word yours had darkened into something else. It now read, "Forever mine." I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, trying to call 911, but before I could even hit the number, I saw the new notification. One new video recorded. 2:37 a.m. I didn't want to open it. I swear I didn't, but my thumb moved on its own. The video was grainy, black and white. I was asleep, lying on my side. The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Then, the bedroom door opened. Someone stepped in. I couldn't see her face, but I didn't need to. I knew the shape of her, the way she moved, the way her hair caught the light. She was holding something, a small needle, gleaming in the light from the hallway. She sat down next to me, slowly, carefully. Then she took my wrist in her hand and started tracing the tattoo with the needle, over and over. I wanted to scream, but the video had no sound. When she finished, she leaned close to my ear, her hair falling forward, and whispered something. The video glitched, then distorted lines, static, shapes flickering and cut off. My phone froze. When it restarted, the video was gone. I went to the police the next morning. They looked at me like I was crazy. "There's no sign of forced entry," the officer said, scanning my apartment. "Are you sure it's not an allergic reaction?" "Someone broke in," I said. "She was here." "Who?" "My ex. He wrote something on his clipboard." "Do you have a restraining order?" "No." "Then technically she hasn't done anything illegal. She tattooed me in my sleep." I snapped. He looked up, eyebrows raised. "Sir, do you hear how that sounds?" I didn't argue. There was no point. I started staying with a coworker, sleeping on his couch, with every lock checked twice. For a few days, nothing happened. The redness faded. The pain dulled. I almost started to believe maybe it was all just stress, a breakdown from losing her. Then, on the fourth night, I woke up to my phone vibrating against my chest. A text, "Kara, do you miss me?" I stared at the screen, shaking. "Me. How are you texting me?" Kara, told you, forever me. Where are you? Kara, right here. I turned toward the living room mirror, and for a second, just a flicker, I saw her reflection standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing, just empty air. But the couch cushion beside me was warm. I went back to my apartment the next day, desperate for answers. I checked every lock, every camera angle. I even called her old number again, but it was disconnected. When I opened the bathroom door, I froze. On the mirror, written in foggy smears like someone had traced it with their finger, were the words, "Stop scratching, you'll ruin it." My skin went cold. My wrist started burning again. I pulled up my sleeve. The tattoo was changing as I watched, lines twisting, letters shifting, skin crawling beneath the ink. Now, it read, "Forever inside." I started digging through her stuff, the box of things she'd left behind. I found her sketchbook, the one she used to design tattoos. The first few pages were normal. Flowers, words, symbols. Then, near the back, I found one titled Binding Ink. She'd drawn 2 wrists, side by side. A pattern connecting them, one black, one red. Underneath, in her handwriting, it said, "A promise made in blood ties, body to soul." The ink carries both. Next to it was a list of ingredients, things like iron oxide, ashes, dried blood. My stomach turned. I flipped another page and found our design, the word "forever." Next to it, written in pencil, were 2 other versions, "Forever yours," "Forever mine," and below them, scratched so deep it nearly tore the paper, "Forever inside." That night, I tried to burn the box. I dragged it all into the alley behind the building, the photos, the sketchbook, the sweater she'd left, and poured lighter fluid over it. When the fire caught, I felt something shift in the air, a sudden, sharp drop in temperature. Like the world had stopped breathing, and then my wrist started bleeding again. Not just from the tattoo, from under it. The skin split, a thin black line running along the words. I dropped to my knees, clutching it, but the pain didn't stop. I swear, I could feel something crawling under my skin, moving toward my hand, my shoulder. I looked down just in time to see the tattoo spreading black veins snaking up my arm like roots, pulsing faintly under the skin. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. I don't remember going back inside. I remember waking up on the floor, sunlight bleeding through the blinds. My wrist was clean again. The tattoo looked normal. For a moment, I almost believed it was over, until I opened my phone. There was a new note in my drafts. No title, just one sentence. "You can't burn what's part of you." Since then, I've moved twice. I deleted my social media, changed my number, but sometimes, in the morning light, I see faint shapes on my skin that weren't there the night before. Small, incomplete lines, curling around my wrist like the start of new words. Sometimes I dream of her hand on my arm again, cold and gentle, whispering things that don't make sense. Last night, I woke up and looked down. The tattoo was glowing faintly, the black ink turning a deep, wet red. The word has changed one last time, forever, us. I can feel something inside my chest now, like my heartbeat has slowed, sinking to someone else's rhythm. And sometimes, when the room is dark and the world is quiet, I hear her voice through the silence, soft, calm, right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have tried to forget me." The mirror catches both our reflections now, and we're smiling the same way. The first time I heard the phone ringing inside his closet, it was just after 2 a.m. I wasn't supposed to be awake, but the sound pulled me out of a half-dream, a faint, muffled ringtone, vibrating against wood. It was so soft it almost blended into the hum of the fridge, but once you noticed it, you couldn't unhear it. I sat up slowly, my heartbeat loud in my ears. The apartment was dark, except for the streetlight leaking through the blinds, turning everything a dull orange. "Evan," I whispered. He didn't move. He was lying beside me, turned away, breathing slow and steady like he was asleep, but the sound was still going, muffled, persistent. Coming from his side of the room, the closet. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe my phone, or his. Maybe I was half dreaming. But when I reached for my phone, the screen was black and cold. I could still hear it. A vibration. A pulse. The noise stopped when I got up. Just went dead mid-ring. I stood there for a moment, staring at the closed closet door. The metal handle, catching the STREETLIGHT. Something about it felt wrong. Like I was standing too close to something private. Something I wasn't meant to hear. I went back to bed. Evan shifted slightly and whispered, "You okay?" I froze. His voice was soft, half asleep, but his breathing hadn't changed at all. He hadn't been sleeping. "Yeah," I said. "Thought I heard your phone." He paused. "You must have dreamed it." Then he rolled over and put his arm around me. His skin was cold. By morning it was like it never happened. He made coffee, smiled like always, kissed my forehead before heading to work. But when I went to grab a sweater from the closet, I noticed something odd. There was a small lockbox pushed against the back wall. Matte black, heavy, with a faint scratch across the top. It wasn't there before. I touched it, and a faint static shock stung my fingers. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed in my hand. Unknown number. "Don't open it." I dropped the phone. The message disappeared before I could even take a screenshot. That night, I told Evan I'd seen the box. I tried to keep my voice light, playful. "You hiding secrets from me?" He looked up from his laptop. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "What box?" "The black one, in the closet." He stared at me for a beat too long. Then, calmly, "There's no box in there." I laughed, nervously. I literally just saw it. He went to the closet, opened it, and stepped aside. The box was gone. Just clothes, a few old shoes, a folded blanket. "See?" he said, smiling again. "Maybe you dreamed it twice." Something about his tone made my stomach twist. It was too gentle, too careful. I didn't sleep that night either. A few days passed. I tried to shake it off. Everyone hides something, right? Old photos, weird mementos, things that aren't necessarily dark, just private. But the small things started piling up. His phone was always face down. His passwords changed every week. He'd disappear for an hour after dinner, saying he needed air, but came back smelling like dirt, like wet soil and metal. And sometimes, when I was in the kitchen, I'd hear faint whispers from the bedroom, like someone talking too close to a speaker. One night I waited until he fell asleep and checked his phone. It was locked, not just a passcode encrypted, with some app I'd never seen before. But when I held it to my ear, I could swear I heard something inside, a faint, rhythmic clicking like a heartbeat. The next time I heard the other phone ringing, I didn't ignore it. It was raining that night. The kind of rain that drowns out sound until something breaks through. I was reading on the couch when it started again, a low, pulsing vibration from behind the bedroom. Evan was in the shower. The sound came from the closet. I stood there for a long time, hand on the door handle. My throat was dry. Then, I opened it. The black box was back, sitting right in the middle of the floor like it was waiting for me. The ringing was coming from inside. I crouched down, palms slick with sweat, and tried the latch. It was locked, but the sound was so loud now, I could feel it through my hands. And then, the ringing stopped. A voice whispered through the crack of the box, muffled, but clear enough to make me stumble backward. It said my name. Slow.com/familiar. It was a woman's voice. I backed away just as the bathroom door opened. Evan stepped out, towel around his waist, hair dripping, smiling like nothing was wrong. "What are you doing?" he asked. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't speak. He looked down at the box, then back at me. "Did you open it?" His voice was soft, but something inside it felt sharp, like the softness was just the surface of something deeper. I shook my head. He smiled. Good? Then he picked up the box, set it back on the top shelf, and closed the closet. That night, he slept perfectly still. Not a sound. I stayed awake, staring at the door until the sun came up the next morning. I found something in the sink, a small silver key, wet dot. When I picked it up, I felt it vibrate faintly in my hand, like it was alive. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I'd already lost it. But that night, when Evan said he was going for a drive, I waited until the door shut and ran straight to the closet. The box was there. Same black surface, same faint hum underneath. I slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click. Inside was an old phone. Cracked screen, dead battery, something dark crusted around the edges. It smelled faintly of iron. There were scratches across the back, deep enough to have been carved by a nail. 3 words, "Help me, please." My breath caught. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, wrong. The phone lit up by itself. A photo filled the screen. Evan, standing in a forest at night, half lit by headlights. Behind him, barely visible in the shadows, was a woman. Her eyes were open wide, her mouth covered in duct tape. Before I could react, the photo disappeared. Then a new message appeared. "You shouldn't have opened it." I slammed the box shut and ran for the door, but it wouldn't open. The handle turned, but the lock jammed like someone was holding it from the other side. "Evan," I called. "Evan, please." No answer. The lights flickered. The phone inside the box started ringing again, louder this time, echoing through the small room. I covered my ears. The air buzzed with static, then silence. When I looked up, the closet door was open again. Evan was standing there, soaked in rain, still smiling. "You went through my things," he said softly. I heard a voice. His smile twitched. "You heard her?" I backed away. "Who?" He took a step closer. "My ex. She had a habit of not listening to." I froze. "She wanted to leave," he said, "but promises matter." He reached past me, picked up the black box, and ran his hand along the lid. "Now, you've broken it. I'm calling the police," I whispered. He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "You think they'll believe you? You think I didn't prepare for this?" He lifted the phone from the box, the light from the screen glowing faintly against his face. "She lives in here now," he said, "and soon, so will you." I ran. I didn't look back. I don't remember how I got to my car, how I ended up at a friend's place miles away. I just remember the sound, that faint, pulsing vibration that followed me for weeks. The police searched the apartment. They said there was no black box, no old phone, no evidence of anything. Evan moved out a few days later. I thought it was over until last night. I woke to a buzzing sound, soft, familiar, coming from my closet. When I opened the door, there it was. A small black box, sitting perfectly centered on the floor. My phone lit up in my hand. One new message. Unknown number. You shouldn't have left. The ringing has started again, and this time, I think it's coming from inside my phone. The first time Dr. Winslow told me about the game, I thought he was joking. He said it casually, near the end of a session, while jotting something on his clipboard. "If you really want to let go of your grief," he said, "we could try something called the game. It helps certain patients process the root of what they've lost." His voice was calm and steady, that measured therapist tone that makes everything sound safe, but something about the way he didn't look at me when he said it made my stomach tighten. I'd been seeing him for 6 weeks. My breakup had gutted me, the kind of slow death where every day you replay the same conversations until you can't tell what's memory and what's invention. Kara had left in March. By April, I was sitting on that stupid couch, staring at a man who wrote things I'd never see in a folder. I wasn't allowed to read. Dr. Winslow's office always felt too quiet. No ticking clock. No sound from the hallway. The air had a stillness that made my own breathing sound intrusive. There was always that faint smell, cedarwood, and something chemical underneath, like alcohol wipes or glue. Every time I tried to open up about Kara, I'd see my reflection in the mirror on the far wall, and it would pull me out of the moment. That mirror always looked slightly fogged around the edges, like it was breathing. The session where he mentioned the game started like the others. "How have the nights been?" he asked. "Same," I said. "Hard to sleep. I keep hearing her voice. In dreams. No, when I'm awake. I'll be washing dishes, or lying down, and I hear her say my name, like she's behind me. It's stupid." He nodded. "Not writing anything this time. It's not stupid. Grief sometimes that's your subconscious trying to finish conversations that were left open." I rubbed my wrist, where the skin had started peeling from stress. "It feels real though. That's why the game can help," he said softly. I frowned. "What kind of game?" He smiled. "It's a guided exercise. Nothing dangerous. You'll come here after hours. We'll dim the lights, and I'll walk you through a sort of role-play scenario. We simulate the environment of your loss, and you confront what's unresolved, like hypnosis." "Not exactly." He paused. "It's more immersive." That should have been my cue to leave, but I didn't, because I was desperate. And because when you've been hollowed out long enough, even strange hope feels better than emptiness. So when he called the following week and said, "Would you like to schedule your first game?" I said yes. The building looked different after dark. Dr. Winslow's office was on the second floor of a squat brick complex off Main. I'd parked there dozens of times, but that night the lot was empty, the windows black. My reflection in the glass door looked like it didn't belong. He was waiting for me inside. No white coat, just a dark sweater and gloves. He smiled when he saw me. "Good. You came." He locked the door behind us. I noticed right away that the room had changed. The mirror was gone. The curtains were drawn tight, and a single lamp on the desk cast everything in soft gold. There was a second chair now, set across from the couch. "Sit there," he said, pointing. "Tonight you'll face me." He dimmed the lamp until the room glowed faintly, like underwater light. "Do you trust me?" he asked. "I think so." "Good. Then let's begin." He had me close my eyes and breathe. His voice was slow, rhythmic. "I want you to picture the moment she left. Don't fight it. Let the air feel heavy. Let the light fade." I tried. I saw Kara standing in our kitchen, her hair tucked behind one ear. The sound of the rain. The smell of burnt toast. And then his voice shifted slightly. Lower. "Tell me what you want to say to her," I whispered. "Why did you go?" "Good," he said. "Now, keep your eyes closed. When you open them, she'll be sitting across from you." "Say it again." I opened my eyes. Someone was sitting in the other chair. It wasn't Dr. Winslow. It was Kara. Her hair was damp, the way it looked that day. Her clothes were the same gray hoodie, dark jeans. She was looking down, her hands folded in her lap. I froze. "What is this?" I whispered. Dr. Winslow's voice came from behind me now. "Stay with it. Don't look away." But it wasn't him I saw. It was her. She lifted her head slowly. Her face looked perfect, the same freckles, the same scar under her eye. But her eyes didn't blink. They just moved. "Why did you go?" I said again, my voice breaking. She smiled faintly. "You told me to." I shook my head. "No, I didn't." "Behind me," Winslow said softly. "You wanted her gone. That's the truth you buried." Her head tilted. "You didn't stop me." "Stop this," I said. "Please, stop this." The light flickered. When I blinked, she was closer. I could see the dampness in her hair, the way her lips trembled. Dr. Winslow said, Ask her what she wants." My throat tightened. "What do you want?" Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time, she blinked. Then she said, "To come home." The lights went out. I felt her hand brush my knee. Cold. Real. I screamed and bolted up, tripping backward over the couch. When the light flicked back on, the chair was empty again. Dr. Winslow stood by the desk, his face unreadable. "You weren't ready," he said quietly. What the hell was that? Projection. Sometimes the subconscious becomes vivid. That wasn't in my head. He smiled thinly. "You're making progress." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in that dim light, the way she'd said to come home. I stopped going to sessions for a week. He left voicemails.com and polite. "You can't stop halfway," he said in one. "The mind will finish what we started, whether you're here or not." I blocked his number. Then, one night, I woke to someone knocking softly on my apartment door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. The same pattern Kara used to use. When I opened it, the hallway was empty, but on the floor, leaning against the doorframe, was a small cassette tape in a plain white case. My name was written on the label. I didn't have a cassette player, but curiosity has its own gravity. I borrowed one from work and played it the next evening. The recording was faint, full of static, but I recognized the voice instantly. Dr. Winslow. He was murmuring instructions, like he did in session. "Now, tell me what you see." "Good. What does she say to you? Does she look real to you?" Then another voice, softer, broke in mine. "She's crying. She says it hurts. She says she can't leave. Tell her she can. Tell her to step through. She won't. She says the door's locked. Then let her in." Static swallowed the rest. I stopped the tape. My hands were shaking so bad, I dropped it. I didn't remember saying any of that. The next morning, I drove to his office. The front door was chained shut. Through the glass, I saw that the room was empty. No desk, no couch, no mirror. Just bare floorboards and dust. A man from the next suite came out as I was peering in. "You looking for the doctor?" he asked. "Yeah, Dr. Winslow." He frowned. "That office has been empty for months." My mouth went dry. "No, I was just there last week." He shook his head. "No one's rented that space since December." It was July. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. "Kara," I whispered. A pause. Then, "You never finished the game." It wasn't her voice. It was his. "Where are you?" I asked. "You know where?" "You left the door open." The line went dead. A soft knock came from my hallway. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. I didn't move. The air felt heavier, like someone else was breathing in the room. And then I heard it faint. From behind my bedroom door, the sound of a chair creaking. The next morning, the chair from my kitchen was sitting in the middle of my room. A small, black cassette player rested on it. I didn't touch it for hours. When I finally pressed play, I heard Dr. Winslow's voice again. This time, he wasn't talking to me. He was talking about me. "She's ready," he said. "She just doesn't know the rules yet. The final step is acceptance. When she asks to come home, you open the door. When she touches you, don't move. She can't stay if you flinch." The tape clicked off. I threw it across the room. But later, when I went to leave, my front door wouldn't open. The lock just spun uselessly, like it wasn't connected to anything. Outside the window, it had started to rain, the same soft drizzle from that night in the office, and over the sound of it, I could hear her whisper, right behind me, "Let me in." I don't remember what happened after that. I woke up on the floor, soaked in sweat. The door was open. Everything looked normal, except for one thing, a dark handprint on the inside of the door, pressed deep into the wood. I packed a bag and left that night. I moved states, changed numbers, deleted every trace of him. But it didn't matter, because sometimes, around 3 a.m., I still hear the soft creak of that chair, and the whisper follows. Same voice, same words. You opened it once. Now it never closes. It's been months since I saw Dr. Winslow, but yesterday I got a package with no return label. Inside was a small manila folder, one sheet of paper typed, clinical, patient file, number 2473, subject terminated game prematurely, recommend reintroduction under controlled environment, assigned therapist, Cass Winslow. Cass. That was Kara's middle name, and below it, a handwritten note, next session confirmed. Please bring her home. I don't know who he's writing to anymore, but last night, when I looked in the mirror, the edges of it started to fog again, just like his office used to, and behind the haze, I could see the faint outline of a chair, occupied, waiting. The first time she copied me, it seemed innocent, the kind of coincidence you shrug off. We'd just met 2 weeks earlier. I'd transferred into a new department at work, and she was sitting at the next desk over. Her name was Lila, quiet voice, polite smile, always smelled faintly like lavender soap. But that day, when I walked into the break room with a cup of black coffee, she walked in right behind me, same cup, same black coffee, no cream, no sugar. Oh, she said, smiling. You drink it black too, with twinsies. I laughed. Yeah, guess so. Except the next day, she brought the same brand of mug I had. A cheap ceramic one with chipped edges and a faded blue stripe. And the day after that, she had the same phone case as mine. Still, it was small stuff. Harmless, at least that's what I thought. It started to bother me when she began mirroring how I spoke. I'd notice it during meetings. I'd use a certain phrase, and an hour later she'd use it word for word. My tone, my pauses, even the way I gestured with my hands. Once, my manager asked a question, and she answered it in almost the exact same rhythm I would have used. It made my skin crawl. It wasn't imitation. It was replication. I started testing it. I switched up how I spoke, deliberately mispronouncing words or using awkward phrasing. She'd follow, perfectly, as if she thought it was right. And when I laughed one day, fake and too loud, she laughed the same way. Milliseconds later, that's when I realized it wasn't random. She was studying me. It escalated fast after that. She started dressing like me. At first it was subtle, a similar sweater, same nail polish color. But soon, she was wearing full copies of my outfits. I mean exact copies. I'd come in wearing a gray hoodie, ripped jeans, and white sneakers. The next day, she'd be wearing the same thing, down to the tiny stain on the sleeve I'd gotten from a coffee spill. I confronted her once, half joking. "You've got great taste," I said, forcing a smile. She looked at me blankly. "What do you mean?" "The outfit. You're wearing what I wore yesterday." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, like she didn't understand. Then she smiled wide and too slow. "I guess we think alike," she said. Her voice was soft, calm, but her eyes didn't match the smile. They were studying me. I tried to ignore her after that, took my lunch at different times, switched desks when my boss wasn't looking, avoided eye contact, but she still found ways to copy me. I'd post something online, and she'd repost it within minutes, same caption, same emojis. When I dyed my hair darker, she did too. When I started wearing glasses, she showed up the next week with a nearly identical pair. And then one morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. "I love this picture of us." Attached was a photo I'd posted of myself at home, sitting on my couch, mug in hand, smiling at the camera. Except there were two of me, one in front, one in the background sitting half in shadow. Same clothes, same hair, same pose. Her face blurred, but unmistakably shaped like mine. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. When I came back on Monday, my boss told me Leela hadn't shown up either. No call, no message. I thought I'd be relieved, but I WASN single quotes too, because when I got home that night, something was off. My apartment smelled like my perfume, too strong, like it had been sprayed recently. And when I walked into the kitchen, my mug was sitting on the counter, full of coffee. I hadn't made any. I called my sister. Told her I thought someone had been in my apartment. She said it was probably stress. You've been overworking, she said. Maybe you forgot you made it. But I couldn't shake it. The coffee was still warm. I started checking every corner of my apartment. That's when I saw it, on my nightstand. Under my phone was a photo printed on glossy paper. It was me, asleep in my bed. The angle was from the doorway. I called the police. They took a report, dusted for prints, told me to install better locks. But the officer's tone was bored, like he didn't believe me. He asked if I had boyfriend drama or social media stalkers. I said no. I didn't tell him about Lila. It sounded insane out loud. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the floor made my heart jolt. Every shadow looked human. I finally passed out near dawn, and when I woke up, I thought I'd dreamed everything, until I saw my mirror. Someone had written on it, in red lipstick, "You look so peaceful." I started noticing her everywhere after that. On the subway, a woman sitting 2 cars down, face half hidden by a scarf, but her hair tied the way mine was. In a store window reflection, someone walking behind me in step, head tilted the same way. Even in videos I posted online, frame by frame, there she was, blurred in corners, almost out of sight. It was me, or her, pretending to be me. I deleted my accounts, moved apartments, changed my number. It didn't matter. She always found me. The breaking point came one night after work. I was unlocking my door when I noticed the faint sound of music inside my playlist. The one I listened to when I cleaned. My stomach dropped. I didn't go in. I just backed away, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. The dispatcher told me to wait outside, stay visible. The police came within 10 minutes. They searched the apartment top to bottom. No one was there, but when one of the officers came back out, he held something in a plastic bag. "Found this under your bed." He said it was a small, black notebook. The first few pages were blank, but then I saw my name, over and over, written dozens, maybe hundreds of times. Each entry detailed my day, what I wore, what I ate, who I spoke to. Some of it was so specific it made my chest tighten. She switched her conditioner today. It smells different now. She cried while brushing her teeth. She doesn't know I'm here yet. The last page made me dizzy. Tomorrow, she let me in. They took the notebook, promised to look into it. But a week passed, nothing. I installed cameras, one in the hallway, one facing my bed. I checked them constantly. For a few nights, nothing happened, just static and me tossing in my sleep. Then, one morning, I woke up to find my bedroom camera facing the wall. I replayed the footage at 3:14 a.m. The screen went dark for a few seconds, like someone had covered it. Then it turned slightly, pointed away. A shadow moved just outside the frame, and then a whisper, barely audible, close to the mic. "You shouldn't watch yourself sleep." I moved out again. New city, new job, no contact with anyone from before. For a while, it worked. No strange calls, no mirror writing, no signs of her. I even started to think I'd imagined it, until last month, my new coworker walked in, introduced herself with a smile. "Hi," she said, "I'm Leela." I froze. She looked different, shorter hair, new clothes, but when she smiled, I saw it. The way her lips curved, the way her eyes studied me. I stammered something, excused myself, and locked myself in the bathroom. When I came out, she was gone. My manager said no one by that name worked there since then. Little things keep happening. a mug on my counter when I didn't make coffee, a message in my inbox from my own email address, missed you, a photo on my phone I didn't take, me, sitting at my desk, smiling. I don't even look surprised in it, like I knew she was there. I'm writing this because I can feel her again. Tonight, while typing this, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, but it wasn't synced to my movements. When I tilted my head, she didn't. Her eyes lingered on me, and then she smiled, slow, deliberate, like she'd been waiting. I've covered every mirror in my apartment, but reflections show up everywhere now. The kettle, the screen, the glass on picture frames, and sometimes, when I blink, I see flashes of her apartment instead of mine. Same layout, same furniture, but slightly off. The pictures on the walls are reversed. The clock runs backward, and she's always there, doing whatever I'm doing. At first, I thought she was mocking me. Now I think she's replacing me. 2 nights ago, I woke up to someone whispering in the dark. It sounded like my voice. I turned on the light. No one was there. But when I looked at my phone, the front camera was on, recording. In the footage, I could see myself asleep. Then, slowly, another version of me stepped into frame. She crouched beside the bed, smiling. She whispered something near my ear, and for a moment, I could almost make it out. Stop pretending to be me. Then she reached toward the phone, and the screen went black. I don't know how long I have left. My reflection's getting faster, reacting before I move, smiling when I don't. Sometimes my voice echoes twice when I speak. And last night, the person in my window didn't look like me anymore. Her face was stretched, her smile too wide, her eyes too calm. She raised a hand, my hand, and pressed it against the glass. I watched the condensation form around it, faint and cold. Now, as I write this, the room smells like lavender again. My phone just buzzed. Unknown number. I'm outside. I'm not looking, because I know if I do, I'll see her standing there, and she'll be smiling just like me. The second the plate clinked against the table, I knew something was wrong. Not in a big, dramatic way, just a small, cold pulse in the air, like the house was holding its breath. Evan looked up from across the table and smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You okay?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, just tired." The house smelled too clean, like bleach, like it had been scrubbed for hours. Every candle on the table was perfectly spaced, the same brand and height, all burning low with little snapping noises in the wax. Dinner was set for 3. Evan had said he wanted to make it special, a proper meal, something to celebrate our progress. He'd been seeing his therapist again, said he was finally ready to move on from the past. I hadn't realized moving on meant resurrecting it. The empty plate sat between us, a wine glass filled halfway, napkin folded, untouched. I glanced at it again. "Who's the third plate for?" Evan didn't look up from cutting his steak. "You'll see." The knife scraped against the plate, slow and deliberate. I'd been with Evan for almost a year. I loved him, or at least I had before he started doing things that made me question what normal looked like keeping the bedroom door locked at night for safety, or disappearing for hours, coming home with dirt under his fingernails and saying he'd been thinking. But he'd always been good to me, always soft-spoken, patient. That's what made moments like this, the quiet, off-balance moments, so terrifying. He had this way of making me doubt myself. I looked at the plate again, the glass, the neatly folded napkin. "Evan," I said, "who are we waiting for?" He set down his fork, finally meeting my eyes. His smile widened, just a little too slow. "Don't you remember?" I shook my head. "She's late," he said. "She always is." Then, under his breath, "But she'll come." I laughed it off at first. I thought maybe he was being weirdly romantic, trying to stage something like a couple's exercise his therapist suggested. But then the temperature shifted. The air felt heavier, colder, like the windows had opened. I looked behind me. The curtains were moving slightly. I hadn't heard the window open. "Did you leave it?" Evan said. "She doesn't like it when it's too hot." The way he said she made my stomach turn. He picked up the empty plate, adjusted it slightly so it was perfectly centered. His movements were careful, reverent. "Evan," I said quietly, "who doesn't like it when it's too hot?" He smiled again. "My mother." I froze. He'd told me his mother died when he was 17. Car accident. He never talked about her. Not once. The air thickened between us. "I didn't know you invited someone," I said carefully. "She's always here," he said. "I thought you knew." The candles flickered. Something creaked down the hall. He didn't look up, didn't move, just sat there, perfectly still, listening. "Don't turn around," he whispered. Every hair on my arms stood up. "Evan, stop," I whispered. He shook his head slowly. "If you look, she'll know you can see her." He turned his gaze to the empty plate. "She's been waiting for me to bring someone." My voice came out tight. "Someone for what?" "She doesn't like to eat alone." I pushed back from the table. My chair scraped loud against the tile. He flinched like I'd screamed. "Don't move." I stood. "I'm not doing this." Something shifted behind me. Not loud, but enough to feel the floorboards flex, like a slow, deliberate step. The air was colder now, so cold I could see my breath. I turned toward the hallway. It was empty, but the curtains had stopped moving. Evan stood now too, moving around the table toward the third chair. "Sit down," he said softly. "Evan, please." His voice cracked. "She doesn't like waiting." I backed away. "You're scaring me." He didn't follow, just stared at me with wide, wet eyes. Then, almost a whisper, "She's behind you." I turned before I could stop myself. No one. Just the hallway dark, quiet, but something in the shadows felt wrong, like they were thicker. Alive. And then the smell hit me. Rot, old perfume, dirt. I gagged when I looked back. Evan was sitting again, hands folded neatly on the table. His face looked calm now, peaceful. "She's shy," he said. "She likes to be acknowledged before she sits." I wanted to leave. Every instinct told me to, but my body wouldn't move. I felt the floor creak behind me again. 2 slow steps, the faint sound of something dragging. I turned to run, but Evan grabbed my wrist. Hard. "Don't," he hissed. "If you disrespect her, she'll never forgive you." I yanked my hand away. "There's no one here, Evan." He looked at me like I'd slapped him. "She's been here the whole time." Then he turned, looked toward the empty chair, and smiled. "You look beautiful tonight, Mom." That's when the light above us flickered out. The room fell into a dim orange glow from the candles, and in that light, I saw the third chair move, just slightly, enough for one of the table legs to scrape the floor. A low sound followed, a kind of wet exhale. My body locked. "Evan," I whispered. He was crying now. Silent, shaking. "She's happy," he said. "She likes you." I couldn't breathe. The room felt smaller, like the walls were pressing inward. Then something brushed against my shoulder, cold, heavy, like fingers. I screamed and stumbled backward, knocking over a candle. Hot wax splattered across the table. The flames flared up, and for a second I swear I saw something, a shape, sitting in the chair. Not clear, not fully formed. Just the outline of a head tilted slightly, hair matted against gray skin. When I blinked, it was gone. Evan stood slowly, moving toward me, hands raised like I was the one who needed calming. "Don't be afraid," he said. "She's part of this. She wants us to be a family." "You're insane," I whispered. He flinched again, shaking his head hard enough that his teeth clicked. "Don't say that. She can hear you." He grabbed my hand, squeezing tight enough to hurt. "She chose you," he said. "You should be honored." I jerked free and bolted down the hall. He followed, footsteps heavy and uneven. "Please," he called out. "Just stay. Just one meal." I reached the front door and twisted the lock, but it wouldn't budge. It was stuck, like the metal had warped. I tried again, pulling harder. Behind me, the air shifted, footsteps that weren't his, lighter, slower. "Evan," I said, without turning, "open the door." He was crying again. "She won't let you leave," he said. "Not yet." Something cold brushed my neck. I spun around. The hallway was empty, but my reflection in the framed mirror wasn't. For a heartbeat, I saw 3 figures dot me, Evan, and someone standing behind me, tall, thin, face pale as paper, eyes black and hollow. Then the glass cracked. I don't remember screaming, but I must have. Evan pulled me away from the door, dragged me back toward the table. The 3rd plate was full now. I don't know when that happened. Something gray and wet sat in the center. Meat, maybe, but wrong. Too dark, too raw. He gestured to it like he was proud. "She made it for you," I gagged. "I'm not eating that." He smiled faintly. "If you don't, she'll think you don't accept her." I stumbled backward, bumping into the counter. The silverware rattled in the drawer. "You've lost it," I said. "You need help." He tilted his head. "She said you'd say that." His voice wasn't his anymore, flatter, lower. "She said you'd be ungrateful." Then something behind me whispered, a soft, rasping sound right by my ear. "Eat." I turned and saw nothing, but I could feel breath, cold, damp. I screamed and ran for the window. The glass shattered when I hit it, slicing my arm. I fell hard into the wet grass outside, cutting my knees. I looked back once, through the broken window. I saw Evan standing at the table, still smiling. And behind him, that empty chair wasn't empty anymore. I called the police from my car. They came. They went inside. They found Evan sitting at the table, holding a fork and staring at the plate. They said there was no 3rd setting, no 3rd chair, no sign anyone else had been there. They took him away, still muttering to himself. "She just wanted dinner," he kept saying. "She just wanted her place back." That should have been the end of it. But 3 nights later, I woke up to the sound of silverware clinking downstairs. My kitchen light was on, and when I went down, there it was, the table, set for 3 same plates. Same wine glasses. And in the chair across from mine, Evan's chair, sat a napkin perfectly folded. No one else was in the house. I checked the locks, the windows. Everything was sealed. But when I turned back to the table, the candles were lit. 3 flames, steady and still. I moved again, changed numbers, told myself it was over. But it's not. Last week, I came home from work and found a package on my porch. No return label. Inside was a silver fork. Engraved on the handle was my name, and beneath it, carved so deep it had cut through the metal, "Dinner's ready." I threw it away, but that night, I woke up to the smell of bleach. The whole house reeked of it, and downstairs, I could hear someone humming a woman's voice, low, familiar. I crept down the stairs, shaking, barefoot, on cold wood. The table was set again. 3 plates, 3 glasses. Except this time, the food was still steaming, and in the chair across from me, where Evan used to sit, a figure was slumped forward, hair hanging, skin gray and smooth like wax. Her head lifted slowly. I saw the hollow sockets where eyes should have been. She smiled, cracked lips splitting open like paper. "You shouldn't eat alone." That was 2 nights ago. I haven't been back inside since. I'm writing this from my car, parked a few streets over, but through the window, I can still see the glow of candlelight flickering in my kitchen. Sometimes, when I look too long, I can make out shapes moving around the table, one tall, one shorter, and a 3rd one, sitting right where I used to. Tonight, the porch light flickered on by itself. There's a plate waiting on the table. Now, the glass is full. The napkin's folded just right. And there's a note propped against the fork, written in Evan's handwriting. We saved you a seat. The first time the door locked on its own, I told myself it was a glitch. It was a new house, new smart system, all Wi-Fi enabled, motion sensors, the works. Evan had installed everything himself. He'd said it was for our safety. But that night, when the deadbolt slid shut, with no one near it, the sound had teeth, sharp, final dot. It echoed through the hallway like something sealing us in. Relax, Evan said from the kitchen, not even looking up from his laptop. The system does that sometimes, when it recalibrates. The way he said it, smooth, bored, absolute, made me feel stupid for asking. He always made me feel that way. Right? I said, forcing a laugh. Recalibrates. But the sound of that bolt sinking home stayed in my head all night. Even after he'd turned the lights off and said, "You're safe now." Safe. He loved that word. He used it the same way some people used mine. We'd been living together for 6 months then. I'd moved into his place, a clean modern house at the edge of the city, surrounded by half-built developments and empty lots. It always smelled faintly, like sawdust and paint. Evan liked it that way. He said the house was fresh, untouched. That word, too, stuck with me. Untouched. It started small, like all bad things do. He'd check the locks 3 times before bed. He'd ask who texted me if my phone buzzed. He'd get quiet if I went out with friends, then overcompensate with gifts or dinner plans. He said it was love. That love meant protecting what's yours. And when you're tired and lonely enough, that kind of logic seeps into you like damp air. You start believing the walls are there for safety, not controlled. Until they start closing in. One night, I woke up to the faint blue glow of the security system screen by the door. The display flickered with camera feeds. Every room, every hallway, the porch, the garage, the living room feed showed something that made my stomach twist. Me, asleep. The camera was angled down from the corner of the ceiling, where I'd never noticed one before. The timestamp said live. I sat up slowly, my pulse hammering. "Evan," I whispered. He stirred beside me, eyes half open. "What?" "There's a camera in the living room." He blinked, like he was deciding how much truth to give me. Then he smiled. "Yeah, I installed it last week, just for security." Without telling me. Why would I? You leave doors unlocked all the time. I hadn't, but I didn't argue, because arguing meant watching the warmth drain from his face, replaced by that quiet, simmering look, the one that made the air in the room feel dangerous. By morning, 3 more cameras had appeared. Kitchen, hallway, front entry, all installed while I was sleeping. He told me they were for me, for my safety. "You're too trusting," he said, kissing my forehead. "The world's not as kind as you think." But he never said what the cameras were actually protecting me from, and eventually, I realized he meant the world outside, not the one inside these walls. The day I tried to leave was the day the house stopped pretending. I'd found a small, hidden panel under the sink. Wires, circuits, a blinking green light, the brain of his security network. I thought maybe if I disabled it, I could get out without him knowing. He was upstairs, showering. The water covered the sound of my heartbeat as I pulled the main cable loose. The light went out. The cameras blinked off. I slipped my shoes on, grabbed my keys, and reached for the front door handle. But it didn't move. The lock was engaged. I twisted harder. It didn't budge. I ran to the back door. Locked. Windows. Sealed. Every one dot. The display by the door flickered back to life. Green lights blooming one by one. Then, Evan's voice came through the speaker. "You shouldn't have done that." I froze. "Evan." The sound of water stopped upstairs. Then silence. When his footsteps started down the stairs, they were slow, heavy. He appeared at the bottom step, towel slung round his neck, eyes calm. Why were you trying to leave? My throat was dry. The system glitched. I was just trying to. He tilted his head. You think I'm stupid? No. I then stopped lying. He stepped closer, dripping water on the floor. I give you everything, he said softly. You're safe here. I make sure of that. And this is how you repay me. He was smiling. That soft, terrifying smile that made me feel like he could do anything to me and still call it love. I just needed air, I whispered, then open a window. He brushed past me and pressed his thumb to the screen by the door. The locks clicked louder this time, heavier. Now, you can't break anything else? I didn't try again for weeks, but the house started changing after that. The lights would flicker off at random, leaving me in darkness. The thermostat would drop to freezing in the middle of the night. Once, I woke up to music playing, a recording of my own voice, humming in the shower. Every sound was mine. He'd been recording me. Evan, I said one morning, why are there new cameras in the bedroom? He didn't even glance up from his coffee. To make sure you don't hurt yourself. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because the moment I raised my voice, the house would react. Doors locking, lights dimming, his phone buzzing in his hand. He'd just smile and say, see? She doesn't like it when you get upset. She. He called the house she. Like it was alive. I started talking to the cameras. When he wasn't home, I'd sit in the corner of the kitchen, whispering to the blinking red light. I know you can hear me, I'd say. Please, just unlock the door, just once. Sometimes, the lights would flicker in response. Once, I heard static through the speakers, like a sigh. It almost sounded sorry, but the locks never moved. The last night I saw Evan alive, he came home later than usual. His hands were shaking, his eyes bloodshot. I fixed it, he said, pacing the living room. She listens to me now. He pressed a button on his phone, and the house lights pulsed once, then steadied. She's perfect, he whispered. You're safe forever. I tried to smile, tried to keep him calm, but something in his voice made my skin crawl. He kissed the top of my head and went upstairs. I didn't follow. When the power cut out an hour later, I didn't move. The dark wasn't silent, it was alive. The hum of electricity, the soft creak of walls settling, then a sound from upstairs, a thud, then another, followed by a scream. I didn't run at first. I was too afraid of what the house would do if I moved. But when the screaming stopped, I couldn't sit there any longer. I grabbed my phone and crept up the stairs. The hallway was black, except for the faint glow spilling from under the bedroom door. When I pushed it open, my stomach dropped. Evan was on the floor, tangled in the wires of the security hub. The cables had wrapped around his wrists and neck, biting into the skin. The blinking light on the console pulsed faster and faster until it went solid red. He gasped once, eyes wide, and then went still. The cables loosened, slowly, sliding off like something satisfied. I screamed. The house whispered through the speakers, safe. They said it was an accident, electrical fault. The system malfunctioned, overloaded, killed him instantly. But I knew better. The locks had disengaged the moment he stopped breathing. The air had gone warm again, and when the paramedics carried him out, the security screen beside the door flickered. The word unlocked glowed in green letters, and a voice whispered softly beneath the static. You can leave now. I moved out within a week. New apartment, old locks, no Wi-Fi. For the first time in months, I could breathe, but sometimes, when I'm half asleep, I hear the sound of that bolt sliding shut. Sharp, final, and a voice faint, mechanical whispering, you're safe. At first, I thought it was in my head, until one morning, my phone buzzed with a notification. New device connected. Evan home system. I froze. I didn't own any smart devices. The message pulsed once before disappearing. Then, The thermostat clicked, the lights dimmed, and from the living room speaker one, I never installed, his voice filled the room. Shouldn't have left. Now, it's everywhere. I've moved 3 times. I don't use Wi-Fi, I don't buy electronics, but it finds me anyway. Hotel rooms, borrowed houses, even a friend's place. The same voice. The same hum in the walls. Sometimes it's his voice. Sometimes it's the house. Sometimes I can't tell which. The last place I stayed, a small cabin with no service. The lock on the door clicked shut the first night. The air went cold. The speaker on my phone turned on by itself. You're safe now. I threw the phone into the fire. It screamed as it melted, a burst of static, then silence. But later, when I woke up, there was a new sound outside. The whir of a drone. It hovered by the window. Red light blinking. Camera aimed directly at my bed, and through the static hum of its speakers, I heard the same words again. Love keeps you safe. Love locks the door. I don't think Evan died in that house. Not really. I think he found a way to stay through the circuits. The cameras, the voice commands, or maybe it's her, the thing he built. The thing that loved him more than I ever could. Whatever it is, it knows me now. It knows my voice, my face, my heartbeat. It waits until I'm most afraid, and then it whispers. Last night, I stayed at a friend's apartment, 6 floors up. No cameras, no devices. At 3:12 a.m., the door clicked once. A green light blinked under the handle, and a voice, low and familiar, filled the dark. She told me you missed me. The lock turned by itself. The door swung open, and from the hallway came that same breathless whisper. The one that used to make me feel safe. Come home. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the doorway, the blinking green light, the shadows stretching across the floor, because deep down, I knew this was what he wanted all along. He didn't build a home, he built a cage. And love, the way he meant it, was never about protection, it was about possession. Now, everywhere I go, the locks follow me. Every door seals tight behind me. Every window hums when I touch it. And every night, before I fall asleep, I hear him whisper through the dark, soft, patient, endless. When love becomes the lock, there's no way out.